Hey, it's Ron Dichter, and welcome back to the second episode of my podcast, Projecting Grandeur. It was really exciting to have our first one in the books, and really enjoyed sharing my stories, my failures, my successes with many of you. And for those of you that have shared it, thank you so much. I really hope that the information that I'm putting out there is helpful and can really help you in your journey as you're starting your own business or changing careers. So please do share this with anyone out there, as I want to get the message out as best we can. Today I'd like to talk about that moment when you realize that the job you're at and the career you want and the business you need all intersect. And what I mean by that is it's that moment that every entrepreneur has when they realize that they have to quit their job, and in order for their business to take shape, they need to go all in. And so how do you know when that time is to go all in? When do you know that you're ready? And really quickly, the short answer to that is you don't. I know that that's not the answer that many of you are looking for. You want to have this definitive time where it's like, okay, these things, I've checked these boxes, so therefore, I can start. But it isn't always that simple. And so I think it starts with two things. First, do you have something that you want to start that is burning so deep inside of you and so hot inside of you that if you don't do that and you live with never trying that thing, that it's going to beat you up and kill you more than not giving it a go? When you want to do something and believe in something that is in your head or on paper so passionately that you couldn't fathom ending life without at least giving that a go, that's the first sign that you have to do this. Just for yourself, you have to do it. The second piece of this is when you feel like if you were to fail, that you can actually recover. And what I mean by that is, I know that there's people that say you don't want to have a fallback plan and you don't want to have plan B. And I agree with that. For something to be successful, you have to go all in. But that also means you need to take calculated risks. And if you're going to go start a business and you have $0 and zero plan on how you're going to go create that first dollar, well, giving up that income with no savings in the bank is a very risky proposition. Now, I don't believe that you need to have a year's worth of salary saved up for you to go take part in your journey. But I do believe you need to understand how you're going to make revenue. And when I started my first business, I didn't have any money. I had a $10,000 line of credit on a credit card. I had what I believed to be a really good idea. And I had the belief that if I follow this, sales process that I myself am going to have to implement, that I'm going to be able to make sales. And then I figured out if I can do this many sales in this amount of time, well, that's going to give me the ability to, at least not go broke. It may not give me the ability to do anything other than eat, pasta and tuna fish, but nevertheless, it gave me the ability to at least know that I could afford enough that I could pay my rent, put food in my body, and survive. And once I had that, I did one thing before I actually took the plunge. So again, just to recap that, I had a business that I believed so passionately and so much inside of me was burning, saying you have to do this. That was thing one. And then I believed that I had a sales model or a distribution plan that I could actually, me personally, sell it. And then the next thing I did before I took that first leap of faith is I tried to sell it. I took all these theoreticals before I ever had a product, and I went and I tried to sell it. And it didn't happen on the first sale, didn't happen on the 10th sale, frankly didn't even happen on the 50th sale. But somewhere after my 50th attempt and maybe a month and a half worth of effort, I actually sold somebody on this concept. Now, I had to deliver, which I had no ability to do at that time, but that wasn't what I was trying to do. I was trying to show myself that if I do these things, I can be successful. And once I had that first customer, that first test, that first actual win, that's when I knew I can actually take this risk. And that's what I did. So I, again, had the plan. I created, the business model. I put it on paper. I created the distribution sales concept. I tested it out and did it. And it was at that time I was ready. And so when I started my first business, I had these things figured out, and I was able to have, I don't want to say decent success, because I was by no means successful, but I was at least able to make enough sales that I could put food on my table, pay my rent, and put enough back into the business that I could actually deliver on the product. And so when you're thinking about, what is the best time for you to leave, you just have to ask yourself, do I have a business that I've actually thought through? Do I believe in this business? Do I believe that the concept of what I want to do is something that's unique, something that the market I'm going after wants? And then you put your sales model together, and again, you test that out, and then you take that risk. And then once you make that choice, once you decide now is my time, well, now is when you have no plan B. And so I just want to reiterate that, because I think that is often mistaken, because you hear so many people say, like, you have to go all in, you can't have a plan B, there's no alternate to success. And I agree with all that mentality. Like, I totally agree with that. But that doesn't mean that you just throw caution to the wind and you go and try to create this successful business without actually putting practice behind it. And so my recommendation to anyone out there is really, when you're ready to start that business, make sure that you have thought through the business plan, you believe in it passionately, and you have tested out that concept of how you're going to sell it, and then you're ready. And then then the journey begins. And starting out a business is hard, it's scary. You have to have belief in yourself. And I talked about this in the last podcast, but it's something that I think is so true. Like, you're not going to have success right away. Sure, maybe there's people that'll give you this success story where it was just easy for them, but the vast majority of us are not going to have that kind of success. We're going to really have to push and struggle to get to a place where we have that level of success. But I talk about this concept of the quarter machine, and it's literally like the cornerstone of everything I believe in, which is, think about those arcade machines, the quarter pusher. You put a quarter in, and the goal is that you put one quarter in and it pushes a bunch of other quarters off the edge, so that your investment or your risk of one quarter can turn into 4, 5, 6, 10, 20 quarters on one drop of a quarter. And this concept is something that I think is so true in sales, but it's also so true in just business in general. When you talk about a business, you ultimately have to sell a product, service. You have to deliver something of value, to get revenue, and you have to keep putting those quarters in. You have to keep putting that investment in. And so, in my example where I had one successful sale, that was just one, right? I had to keep putting quarters in, and you're going to have moments where you think you put all these quarters in and you have no success, but what you don't see is that success you can't see. That quarter that you put in that fans out, the rest of the quarters below it, and it's 1, 2, 3 quarters away from dropping 30 quarters, but you don't know that because you don't see the whole bunch of quarters move. And so as you get started in your new business, it's really important to just keep putting those quarters in, keep putting that investment in, because that's how you're going to have success, is that you're going to keep putting that investment in. And so, going back to all the people out there that are looking to start a business, again, those are my steps, my recommendations on how you get started. And then once you get started, obviously keep putting those quarters in. And in future podcasts, I want to talk a lot more in detail about the startup life and what that looks like. But for today, just remember, have something you're super passionate about. Have something that you believe in, and that if you don't do, that the thought of not giving that thing a go is so heartbreaking that you couldn't fathom living with yourself. That's when you know you have a good business. And then make sure you have a distribution model, a sales method that you believe in. And then once you believe in that sales model, test it. You personally go out and sell it. And then once you do that and you've had success, you know it's your time. So good luck to you. Thanks for chiming in. Please like, comment, and share. I'm really trying to reach a large audience of folks that can benefit from this. And if you have people that you know that are starting businesses or are looking to start a business or are just looking to change careers and need that extra motivation, please share this podcast with them so that we can get the word out there. Thanks so much, and have a great day.